Hi, it's Marisol, your rebel guide to living a life of freedom abroad, bringing you an episode of Roaming the Now, where entrepreneurs, coaches, and mentors come together to give you a behind the scenes look at the real and raw experience of setting out to a new country and building a life and business abroad. If you're curious about your unique personality while living abroad, take the Living Abroad Persona quiz at quiz.connectwithmarisol.com to discover your unique living abroad persona type. Make sure to like and subscribe to Roaming the Now. Enjoy! Hello and welcome to Roaming the Now. This is your host, Marisol, and today I have Esther Avant with me. And Esther, before we jump in and talk about our topic of discussion, I would love for you to just introduce yourself and share a little bit around your expat journey.
Thank you. I would love to. So I have been working in the health wellness industry for almost 20 years. I started off as a personal trainer, got into nutrition coaching, and started my online health and weight loss coaching business in 2016-ish, largely because I was dating and I'm now married to an active duty Navy man. And I didn't want to be starting my career over every time we moved. So long story short, I have this online business, and over the course of the last 10-ish years, we've lived everywhere from San Diego, where we met, to Virginia Beach, Hawaii, Washington, D.C., Germany, and now we're headed back to San Diego. So in our last few years in Germany, we had the opportunity to travel to, I think it was like 20 countries, and spend some, pretty extensive time on the road, lengthier trips. And then obviously, being in a foreign country for several years, you really, get immersed in that. So over, the course of my career, not only have I been serving clients, but also having my own experiences that caused me to really think about how I can maintain my healthy lifestyle while we're traveling, and really what that looks like, because things are different when you have roots and you have routines, and when you are sort of in that upheaval, or things are less predictable or less familiar. And what I really learned is that it is possible to have all the things, to be, to look, feel, be healthy, and be enjoying, the world.
Yeah, I love that. Also think like for the perspective on how you decided like online business so that like you don't have to restart your career all the time. Like it is your career, it travels with you. And that's something that I always tell everyone, like if you're going to be an expat, um, figure out what you want to do as your business so that you're not reliant on employers or other things like that. It just makes the expat lifestyle a lot more easy if you're not having to reinvent your career wherever you go.
Absolutely. And, scheduling wise too, to have the flexibility to do things in whatever time zone you're in, on your own terms, rather than needing to be logged into a computer for 8 hours a day, which happen to be in the middle of the night now. So I think obviously it comes with its own challenges, but I think it's well worth it, especially if you're wanting to live, abroad.
Yes, exactly. It definitely is comes with its own set of challenges, different set of challenges, but it works out if you want to do the travel abroad, move to different places. So on that note, and focusing on your business and focusing on your journey, how do you maintain a healthy lifestyle like while traveling?
One of the biggest things for me has been learning how to be flexible in what my day to day looks like, but firm and committed to the things that are important to me and that I want to get done. And by that, I mean, prior to living this, pretty nomadic or, military lifestyle, I was very regimented. I really thrived on routine and schedule of, this is the day and time that I grocery shop. These are this is the walking route that I do. This is when I go to the gym. This is what I do. And I thrived in that structure. And I found it very disarming, I guess, to not have that in the same way when we started moving around and traveling. It takes some time to create new routines. And what I found was that although that rigidity did serve me previously, it started to work against me in this new lifestyle. in that I sort of had these beliefs that, well, if I don't get my workout in first thing in the morning, it's not going to happen. And as we started traveling and as I became a mom, there were just times where I couldn't get the workout done in the morning. And I realized what a box I was putting myself in to believe that that was the only opportunity. So I really started leaning into the flexibility of it's going to get done, but exactly what that looks like might be different from day to day. Maybe it's first thing in the morning like I'd like, maybe it's at lunch, maybe it's before bed, maybe it's it's a walk and stumbling on an outdoor workout area rather than the intentional workout I'd planned. But recognizing that I was not going to thrive in a traveling lifestyle if I was so rigid that I couldn't get outside these like self-imposed limitations. So that's one of the things, is recognizing like what are my end of day or end of week goals, and be really committed to, okay, if I say I'm going to work out 4 days a week, that will happen by the end of the week. But if it's not Monday, Wednesday, Friday, Sunday at noon, that's okay. So that's really helped a ton. And I think one of the other big pieces for me was creating anchors, thinking about when I am being consistent, when I am feeling settled, what are the things that help me feel that way? And kind of jumping off the flexibility thing, one of those things was knowing that when I start the early part of my day with some form of movement, it sets a good tone for the day. It no longer has to be 90 minutes in the gym. Maybe it's like this morning, it was a 10-minute stretching class because my back was tight. Maybe it's a walk. Maybe it is a strength workout. But giving myself anchors throughout the day that I knew would help me make better choices throughout the day. My first meal of the day, I've learned, is important for me. If I start with something that is high volume, high in protein, high in fiber, it keeps me satisfied for a long time. So I can either get stuff done or I can be out exploring. And it sort of takes the edge off where I don't feel like I just want to eat everything in sight. So finding those sort of big anchors for myself has been really helpful, because then I can figure out, how do I modify that thing for where I am now? Even if we're in a foreign country, I can still make, I can still make an effort to do those things in whatever way works. And then that just kind of helps reaffirm my identity as a healthy person. And then the rest kind of falls into place from there.
Okay. No, that's really interesting to think about, like losing the rigidity but keeping the commitment, which I feel like can be universally applied, right? Especially like if we're thinking of like business, like it doesn't have to be that you post at this time at this day and this and that. Just make that commitment to, I'm gonna post. For me right now, is I'm gonna make content that I like and create at least 3 times a week. When it happens, how it's created, the time frame, fluid around it. And I feel like if we can apply that same this idea of be rigid in your commitments with yourself, as you said, but maintain the fluidity around it's going to happen in the way it happens, because no day is the same, right? Especially when you're traveling, like you can still, and I think I like what you said, it's like your identity. You can still stay rooted in that rigidity, like the things that you do for you to maintain rooted in that sense of identity you want to have, whether, being healthy or being a business owner, but having the openness to like be flexible around it. And so I'm really curious, because obviously in your work with people and being in this space in your business of helping people with like health coaching, and I have the question around like, what do you find is the biggest like sticking point, like where did they get stuck?
You actually just triggered it in me in something that you said. And I was like, oh, I need to make sure to mention that. The biggest thing that I see is having an all or nothing mentality when it comes to your health. And what reminded me of it was when you said how chaotic travel days can be. And I was thinking how often, how prevalent it is to, be taking a flight and it gets delayed. And say you had, made this schedule for yourself of, okay, I'm going to get on this flight. Once I arrive at the, new destination, I'm going to get my workout in, things like that. Now you're delayed. You're going to be in the airport the rest of the day. What most people will default to is, well, I tried. I can't get the workout in when I said I was going to, so there's nothing I can do. I guess I'll just try again tomorrow. And that's sort of the nothing side of all or nothing. The middle ground is where we all need to learn to live. And that is recognizing, all right, so plan A is out. What else can I still do? I need to get out of the headspace that that was the only option And if I can't do it fully, it's not worth doing anything. And instead look for all the, sort of shades of gray in between. Here I am at this airport. I have a lot of opportunities to get some steps in. Are there ways, maybe I have a backpack. Can I find a corner where nobody's in it and do some squats while I hug the backpack, or use it for some single arm rows? Starting to look for the ways to live in between the all or nothing. That's the biggest struggle that I see. And what it can look like, maybe if you're not, say, fully living in, fully an expat in one place, but maybe you're traveling around, or you're seeing, where do we want to move to? So you're experimenting. What can happen is you get into this mentality of when I'm home, I need to be perfect. I need to be all in. My diet's really strict. I'm working out of time. And then when I travel, that all goes out the window and I'm like, whoa, vacation mode. I'm going to eat and drink all the things. Who cares about exercising? And you just kind of get in that cycle that you're feeling really, restrictive and kind of obsessive when you're all in. And then you start to kind of feel like crap when you let all of it go. And it just kind of exacerbates the all in or all out. When you're feeling bad, you think, I just need to ramp up. I just need to do more. And then you get so burnt out from doing that, you end up doing nothing, and around you go. So getting out of that headspace, I think, is the biggest hang up for most people.
Okay. So getting out of all or nothing headspace. So I guess like we're thinking about this of like how I guess I'm thinking about that. Now you have me reflecting on me. I'm like, oh wow, it's not all or nothing. We can find our in between. So what like practical advice would you give to someone who is really wanting to maybe move more into the mid space, right? Like it's not we're doing everything or we're not doing nothing. Like how can we find like the middle space, like the grace of like we still do the things even if they don't like as they did. So how would you recommend going around that?
That's a great question. So we have a term that we use in coaching called compassionate ownership. And by that, I mean being empathetic to yourself, treating yourself the way you would a friend, a loved one, cutting yourself some slack, giving yourself grace that, you're never going to be perfect, and that's fine. While also taking responsibility for your life and your actions and your attitude, and recognizing that no one is going to do it for you. No one can. And that you're not a victim. You've chosen this lifestyle, and this is one of the challenges that comes with it. And it's something that you can handle. You can learn whatever skills you need to, you can develop whatever tools you need to in order to be a healthy person who also travels and lives abroad. So I think that's important to kind of lay the groundwork, is that we need to stop striving for perfection and having that be the goal. And then starting to just kind of challenge yourself to see, we refer to different like effort dials or radio dials. So most of us, we're either off or at 100%. And just like, when you're tuning the volume of the radio, you want to get it just right. There's a lot of, stops in between off and, full volume. So start challenging yourself when you're not like in the throes of a scenario, but just, maybe when you're listening to this, when you wrap up and you're kind of mulling it over, think about a scenario that you've been in before that you have handled in an all or nothing way. And then challenge yourself to think about, what are the alternative ways that I could have handled it? What were the other options that I couldn't see at the time just because I wasn't in the habit of looking for them? And start teaching yourself to pause and look for those alternatives, because they're there. Just yesterday, I was saying to my son, he was, whining about something, and I said, you can either focus on the problem or the solutions. And most of us just kind of wallow in the problems. Oh, this, I can't find my favorite yogurt when I'm in, Portugal, or I'm so tired from the time change that I hit snooze through my workout. Most of us are focusing on the problem and we just kind of wallow in it, instead of, okay, well, here we are. What are we going to do about it? And it just takes practice. And that's where I think the compassion comes in, of recognizing it's not going to be an overnight thing where you're just like, oh yeah, I used to be really all or nothing and now I'm not. It's going to be a process, and you're going to notice progress in terms of situations where you're like, you know what? I did handle that a little bit better. I do see the shades of gray in here. And the more practice you give yourself, the easier it gets to naturally default to a reasonable option in the middle instead of the extremes.
Yeah, definitely. The compassionate inquiry and I really just think instead of like all or nothing, like it's like a really good exercise to just take a moment and think about when have I been in my life. And even I'm just thinking about it like with my yoga practice, I tend to be so all or nothing. I'm like, oh, I didn't get it done this time. Okay, bye. Um, but I think it's true. Like there's this space in between. It's not this or that. Sometimes it can be this and that. That was something that was coming up, and also just taking a moment to recognize like what are my alternatives, right? Even like this is why I think reflection is so powerful, and this is even like for life, for fitness, maintaining healthy lifestyle, because as I always say, like healthy mind, healthy body, healthy body, healthy mind, like it's all interconnected. I very much so believe that. So for me, like in listening to the conversation, listening to what you're sharing, I'm like, okay, like this is like, wow, how can we really make that connection between how are we tending to our mind and like the thoughts that we're thinking, the things that we're telling ourselves, the reflections, and how is it actually reflecting in my physical choices, my physical actions to be that like healthy version of me that, I want to be. So on that note, what are like typical things that you work with people on, like in your program?
So the main thing people come to us for is weight loss. A lot of the women we work with have struggled with their weight for a long time, have generally been on what I refer to as the weight loss roller coaster, where they've had some success at losing weight, but then it just as quickly comes back on. And each time it kind of takes a hit on your belief in your ability to be successful. So the main thing that clients are looking for when they come is the exercise and nutrition guidance of, what and how much should I be eating? What should I be doing for workouts? The accountability that, a lot of people will come to me and say, I know what to do, I'm just not doing it. And sometimes having that outside person who is going to check up on you and ask you is enough to start showing up for yourself more consistently. My favorite part of the coaching we do, though, is what clients kind of discover they need once they're in the program. And that is, we really focus on simplifying exercise and nutrition. And I consider them the tip of the iceberg. It's what most people focus on, but it's not the full story. What most of us need is to do mindset work, like we've been talking about, and to develop more skills and tools to help them navigate life with the identity of a healthy person. And that sort of scratching beneath the surface takes clients all sorts of different directions. Sometimes it's exploring their relationship with alcohol. Sometimes it's realizing that their relationship with their mother has had a much bigger impact on their value than they have realized. Sometimes it's, developing skills when it comes to actually, cooking. Maybe it's setting boundaries or relationships, things like that. There's a lot of kind of this ancillary stuff that most people don't focus on because it's not the most obvious. But like you just said, it's also interconnected, that a lot of times the reason we keep the exercise and nutrition so simple is because then it's very easy to pinpoint, why am I not doing those few things that I said I was going to do? And that's what helps you identify, oh, well, I keep staying late at work, or I keep adding more responsibilities to my plate, or I just don't feel like, I feel like I'm being selfish if I take the time for myself. That's when you can pinpoint what are the actual challenges standing my way, and then work on developing the skills to overcome them. And that to me is the most important part, because most people are pretty good at losing weight. It's the keeping it off part that we struggle with. And that's where all these different lifestyle related skills come in, that you need to develop the belief in yourself that you can handle whatever comes your way. You need to have the resources to say, okay, this is the, you just mentioned like self-reflection. You need to have the awareness to pause and see what's going on. And then to say, okay, I can figure this out, or I know where to go to get the help that I need. And that really is, kind of the crux of the coaching that we do, is helping develop that long-term confidence that you just are this healthy person and there's nothing that's going to stand in your way. And let's develop the tools that you need to make that be true.
Yeah, yeah. As you were sharing, it was making me think of how, so like in the whole in the somatic world, like we do really, it is the emotions are living in the body, and like that triggers like emotions trigger thoughts, actions, all these things. And so, as I'm listening to you, like it is really true. Like at the bottom of action or habit that may not be supportive, there's an emotion. And so, if we're even thinking about that, like physically, like the emotion needs to be tended to. I don't like to say fixed because you can't really fix emotions, but it's more so like, how do you tend to the emotion so that you can understand how to best support it in a way that's healthy instead of maybe reverting to alcohol or maybe overworking or maybe, emotional eating, because it really does all have this root in emotion. And so, as you said, like building that confidence, right? It all starts with like, we have these external goals that we think are, oh, this is what we need to fix. And then we dive into it and we're like, oh, wow, no, that's actually not, that's not what it was.
That's exactly it. And it's interesting because, you can't really market it in that way because people don't know what they don't know. Me saying, you don't really need to focus on the weight loss. What you need is to focus on, this inner wound that you have. And like nobody's picking that up. What you need to do is meet people where they are and with their level of awareness, and you sort of gently, gradually introduce them to what they want and also what they need until they can sort of take over the reins, get back in the driver's seat, and start taking over the process themselves.
Yeah. No, I think that's really true. Meeting people where they are. And I think you bring up a really interesting marketing point. And I think that's where a lot of coaches, mentors, entrepreneurs, everyone in the space, right, that are in the people oriented business. And when you do work with people more on the emotional mindset aspect of things, like we know if they're working with people, it all really comes down to this like emotional state, emotional sense of well-being, health. However, they don't want to hear that, right? Like they want to lose the weight or they want the new job or they want to have the six-figure business, right? Like that's why there's so much of this marketing, which like it's appealing to what the people want. However, everyone knows in the space, it's done this a long time, it's all the same things. It's just people aren't necessarily ready to hear it.
Yep, exactly. And I think, as frustrating as that can be to feel like, but I know what you need. I've done this so long. I think that's a really cool opportunity in what we do, is that we get to open people's eyes to that and introduce them to something that they just previously hadn't even known was there, and to see like those connections being made and see how much more deeply they learn and they reflect. And then you just kind of the ripple effect of that. If you're teaching someone to connect to their emotions and then they're teaching their kids how to, better coping skills and things like that, it's just such a cool outcome that isn't really anyone's focus at the beginning, but is really cool when it happens.
Yeah, no, it definitely is. Well, thank you so much for coming and sharing and sharing really like your insight and your expertise on how to maintain a healthy lifestyle while traveling. Anyone wants to get in contact with you, what is the best way?
So I have my website is my full name, estheravant.com. And if you go there, or estheravant.com/quiz, there's a quick quiz that you can take to help you figure out how to get off the weight loss roller coaster, if that's something that resonates with you. I also have my own podcast called Live Diet Free. That's one of my favorite things to do. And you can find me on Facebook and Instagram at esther.avant.
Awesome. Thanks so much for sharing. I'll make sure to put all of Esther's links in the description so that for those of you interested, you can connect with her further. So with that being said, this is your host, Marisol, signing off from Roaming the Now. I hope you enjoy wherever you are in the world. Until next time.
Thanks for catching this episode of Roaming the Now. If you have not already, make sure to like and subscribe. And if you want to discover your unique personality while living abroad, visit quiz.connectwithmarisol.com. And as always, wherever you are in the world, I hope you are enjoying Roaming the Now.